Another day, another Scream movie. Sorry. Hello?
What's your favorite scary movie?
The Conjuring. Why? Hello? Okay. Let's try again. Another day, another Scream movie. Scream 2 is a sequel to the Scream film of 1996. This movie was released in 1997, and in most cases, releasing a sequel a year later is usually a bad sign. This is one of those rare cases. So 2 years after the events of the Woodsboro murders by Billy Loomis and Stu, Sidney is now in college. She's at a different point in her life. She's got new friends and a new boyfriend. There's a movie called Stabbed, which is basically based off the tragic events of the Woodsboro murders. There was even a book about it written by Gail Weathers, and now the whole town is sort of obsessed with this film. So later on, all of a sudden, these killings start repeating. There's a new Ghostface that's killing a bunch of other people. So like the first one, they have to now investigate and find out who's behind the mask. Now let's get started with the good. Just like the first one, the opening scene of this movie is truly memorable. Unfortunately, I forgot to mention the opening scene of the first Scream film in my other review, which is weird because it was one of my favorite moments in the film. Scream 2 starts in a different way. So basically, this couple portrayed by Jada Pinkett Smith and Omar Epps are going to the theaters to go watch Stab. Everyone is crazy about it, so you had people actually wearing the entire costume. And personally, I wouldn't have felt comfortable sitting next to someone like that. The boyfriend went to the toilet and got killed by Ghostface, but not only that, he wore his clothes and mask so you wouldn't be able to recognize him. He went back inside the theater and stabbed the girlfriend. Everyone inside was so busy cheering for the stab film, they weren't even able to recognize that someone was actually being killed until it was too late. It was definitely a great way to start the film. So for the characters again, Neve Campbell did a fantastic job as Sidney Prescott. You could say she's now matured. Certain things don't scare her anymore. For example, there's a guy who prank called her as Ghostface and it didn't work. She's no longer the scared little girl. I'd say my favorite character in the movie would have to be Gail Weathers. I really liked her more here. She did have this mentality of being a jackass at times. Her career first and everyone else be damned. That's how she was in the beginning of the movie. But later on, you see that she started changing. You'd see that she became this whole nicer and different person when she was with Dewey. She was still kicking ass like before. She could hold her own against the killer. Whenever the killer was revealed again, I was blown away. I just didn't see it coming. I had a feeling that it's probably two people, but wow, there were two people I never expected. It turns out Ghostface was both the reporter and the film fanatic. The reporter was actually Billy Loomis's mother, and she planned this entire revenge scheme for Sidney. She mentioned that Sidney ruined her life, her mother stole her husband, and she killed her son. I sat there thinking this was all cleverly planned. It was a shocking plot twist. As for the other guy, Mickey, he was basically Randy. By that I mean he was a huge fan of movies. He knew the rules and the references, which leads to my next point. Again, they repeated the whole red herring scenario. They made us think that Cotton Weary was probably behind everything. It didn't really work. It was a bit too obvious. You know, the guy just got out of jail after being falsely accused. He's not going to start killing people now. Self-awareness. I'm sorry that I'll be comparing this movie to the first one, but sometimes I can't help it. I love how they used what worked in the first movie and brought it back here. They mentioned that, hey, Ghostface is back, so someone's trying to make a sequel to Stab. They even say that sequels are inferior to the original.
Are you suggesting that someone's trying to make a real-life sequel?
Stab 2? Who'd want to do that? Sequels suck.
No, wow. Come on, man.
Oh, please. By definition alone, they're inferior films.
I really appreciate the self-awareness of this franchise. One of the best moments of the movie was after Ghostface was knocked out in the car, Sidney and her friend, I think her name was Hallie, had to crawl over him. The problem is you can't tell whether or not he's really knocked out because he's wearing a mask. It creates this really tense situation. But the first time I watched this movie, when Mickey said that Derek was involved in the whole Ghostface scheme, I started having doubts for some reason. Could they repeat the plot of the first movie? Sidney ended up doubting him as well. Mickey played her. He used her past experiences to manipulate her. I mean, it wouldn't have made a difference if she untied him because he would have died either way. Now let's talk about the bad. Some of the things that occurred didn't seem to make sense. For example, in the beginning of the movie, Omar's character got killed in kind of a stupid and convenient way. Ghostface somehow knew that he'd put his ear right against the wall, and he also knew who his girlfriend was. Also, the way Sidney treated Cotton Weary was a bit too harsh. I get it, he did come across as pushy, controlling, and slightly obsessive. Sidney falsely accused him and sent him to jail, and somehow she couldn't just find those 10 minutes to have a conversation with him. That might be a nitpick, but I sometimes felt sorry for the guy. With that said, I'm going to give Scream 2 4 stars. I had a great time watching this movie. It was always fun guessing who the killer is. It was definitely a fun time. I just had a small issue with certain things. So, Scream 2, have you watched it? What do you think about it? Please tell me in the comment section below, and have a good one.